Hello, friends. Welcome back to our Dream Big Nation podcast. I'm Lisa Williams, your host. As you know, I have just an absolute fascination for people and their life stories, and every conversation that we have is helping me grow into the person that I'm meant to become and getting to tell other people's stories at the same time. So today, I'm so excited to support this woman in her generosity campaign. Angela Legh is zooming in from Arizona via the Cotswolds in England. Welcome to our show, Angela. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me on this show. I appreciate you. I appreciate your listeners, and um,
We're
I
going to have
just
some fun today. Let me
yeah.
let me share with our audience, and I'm going to actually read this because you were so generous to provide this for me. So I
Okay.
thank you. So Angela just had her new book released. It's called Bella Santini in the Land of Everlasting Change. And when Angela isn't dreaming of dragons, monsters, and other magical beings, she gratefully, well, she was wandering the meadows of the Cotswolds. She's now in Arizona, but she's very much in touch with her inner child. And what I love about what your books do is help our children get in touch with their emotional intelligence. And let's be sure that we share with our listeners early on. We'll do it again at the end. Tell us about the campaign that you have going right now, because I think that's really timely and what's going on in our country right now.
Okay, that's a good place to start. I did actually a Facebook post last night where I talked about that I decided that love, like agape love for everybody and everything, is my word for 2021. And that brought me to think, well, how can I be of service to the community? And I decided to give away 150,000 ebooks to school districts or foster organizations. And my idea is to really scaffold the underprivileged and give them a leg up.
Mm-hmm.
Um, my books teach kids tools to process emotions, teaches them how to process the emotion, and different tools, breathing techniques or meditation to help them process the emotion. Um, and really, when we look at today's situation, 2020 has been such a difficult year. There have been people lost. There has been COVID. People have lost jobs. The economy faltered. There's political upheaval. Um, that affects us. And it also affects our children. When you think about the time when you were a kid and your parents were yelling about something, quite frequently children take it in as if they caused the problem.
Mm-hmm.
So children these days have so many things that they are dealing with, so many emotions, so many fears, so many different feelings inside. They really need these tools so that they can learn to breathe through anxiety. And obviously clinical anxiety is not something that my book can cure, but low level anxiety, absolutely. Doing a breathing technique to bring your breathing in line and slow your heart rate and bring your body back down into
Yeah.
a comfort zone. Um,
Well, and let's face it, I think that the ability to escape in a beautiful story, I mean, it's funny. Let me ask you a question. This is actually something that can help me with my daughter.
okay.
Because I have my youngest is 12. She's almost 30. She's actually going on 21, I feel like. But um,
She's actually the ideal age for my book.
right, I know
It's
that's what I was
like
thinking.
8 to 11, yeah.
I was that girl that literally you could not get a book out of my hand. My mom would come in my bedroom and I'd be under my covers with my flashlight still reading. And my my daughter hasn't necessarily found that love of reading that I have.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of kids, it seems like something's happened to these kids that the idea of holding a book or immersing yourself in a story sometimes has been lost. And I'm curious, what advice would you give for parents maybe like me that have I just there's actually nothing more that I mean, one of my joys is cuddling up on the couch and just immersing myself in a story,
It's
you know?
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, you know, I don't know necessarily how to get kids to get into books if they're
Hmm.
not.
Right.
However, um, I will be creating an audio version of the book, so
Yeah.
that will be um, once a kid does get into the book, they're probably going to be engaged and want to know what happens next because
Right.
that's what I keep hearing from readers. What's next?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I love how you incorporate magic and monsters and dragons and all of the things that the mystical creatures that tell me, I'm curious, give us a little bit about your backstory. I know that
Mm,
you've had some hardships in life that have brought you to this place. Can you share a little
yeah.
bit about that?
Um, so when I was 4 years old, my house burned down. I lived in San Francisco, and our family was broken up by that. The kids had to go. We were four kids split two and two to different people's houses to stay until my parents could find a house.
Wow.
So for 2 or 3 months, my sister and I lived with someone who was basically a stranger to us. Um,
So
that
not even family then.
yeah, my other sisters went to my aunt, which was probably a better situation, but my parents did the best they could at the time, and so that particular thing kind of formed my life. A sort of I'm not good enough kind of approach to everything. Because in my little 4-year-old mind, I was not with my aunt. I wasn't with my parents
Oh, interesting.
because I wasn't good enough or
So
I
your
wasn't
your folks
wanted.
were your folks were with your aunt with your two other sisters, but they're
No,
just
my
simply
parents were in a hotel trying to find a place
got
for
it.
us, and we were in other people's homes. So,
Huh.
yeah, yeah, and to go through a significant trauma like losing everything and then be torn away from your family is these days there would be a counselor involved. I think
Yeah.
those days that wasn't so. So that set the path of my life, and what I ended up doing was marrying an older man um, who was very controlling,
Mm.
and I I want to preserve his dignity, and I do not wish to go into stories about what he did because I also understand I went into that marriage and I
Sure.
stayed in the marriage. And
Sure.
so I'm not pointing fingers, but it was basically an emotionally abusive
Mhm.
situation.
Mhm.
And
How long did you stay in that?
33 years.
Interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was the trigger that prompted you to be brave enough to get yourself out?
It was another fire,
You're
which
kidding me. What?
no, it's the Tubbs fire in the Santa Rosa, well, Sonoma Napa area of California that happened in 2017.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, it was a huge fire. It destroyed 5,000 homes in our communities. one of them was mine. And
Wow.
so I went from a very comfortable, toxic marriage, but comfortable in home to homeless overnight, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that threw me into a dark night of the soul where I didn't know. It's like I would go to work and I'd feel like, why am I even here? What's the value of me being here? I don't have a place to live. I don't have groceries. I don't have this and that. I've got to do all that stuff. Why am I here? And I finally talked to a psychologist who got me out of work.
Right, right.
um,
So it's interesting that the timing of this conversation, because I think it's very timely with what's going on in our world right now,
it is,
because
yes.
there's so many people that are experiencing loss right now, loss of a job, loss of their livelihood, loss of
Mm-hmm.
just freedom in general to just go around our world, the way that we want to, loss of being able to commune with others. And your story is beautiful because you did take a time that was very traumatic, but you used it to refine you this time, not define you. Um,
That is true, and it's, I don't want to say it's unusual, but I have a lot of friends who are still defined by what happened to them that night.
yeah, oh, I'm
Um,
sure.
and what happened to me over the ensuing months, as I was in this dark night of the soul questioning everything, I looked at my life. And the
Hmm.
only thing left in my life was my marriage.
Yeah,
Because I didn't, the friends scattered. People left town. Nobody wanted to be where it was smoky for 3 weeks, um, and on fire for 3 weeks. But so friends, the book club, out of 12 women in a book club, 10 of us lost our homes. So that book club just
good
dissolved that
heavens.
night.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
yeah.
I'm part of a book club, and it's one of the joys in my life is meeting
Oh,
with
it's so
my
good. Yeah,
with the ladies. But that's part of the fun is coming to one another's homes and
yeah.
being the hostess. And wow. So did you virtually connect eventually again? Or
We tried to do one or two, but we just, everybody was so caught up in the drama of insurance claims, and
oh yeah.
when you have to, if you thought you just had to replace everything in your kitchen,
I
it
can't
would
even
be
imagine.
overwhelming.
I
But
can't
when you
even
have to
imagine.
do everything in a whole house,
Right.
it's like
Yeah.
I I had to create a spreadsheet for insurance, 1,650 um, lines, and that would be like this many genes. So instead of each gene, it was
Right.
everything's combined as best I could, but 1,600 lines in the.
So we might have some people, I would imagine there's people listening to this that are finding themselves in a severe time of transition like you
Mm-hmm.
went through. What would you tell them they have to look forward to if they continue to persevere, not just let this
Hmm.
define them, but refine them, right?
Yeah, it's when you can not be victimized by the situation, when you can step out of that, oh, this happened to me feeling,
Mm-hmm.
and you can look at it from, okay, what lessons did I learn? For me, stuff doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care about stuff anymore. And I learned that relationships are the thing that really matter. Um, so there's always little nugget gems of learning in every situation that God blesses us with. And um, when you can look at the situation, figure out how you could learn from it and understand that the angels and God, they don't close a door without opening another one.
Right. Yeah.
And so we are blessed. And maybe I shouldn't even say that. I was blessed by the fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because I saw through the fire that my relationship wasn't serving me, and if the fire hadn't happened, I would be busy with my book club and busy with work and going to the grocery store and doing this and that, and I wouldn't pay attention
That
to
hamster
that
wheel,
fact.
that
And
hamster wheel of life. It's a great analogy to what's going on right now. I find I'm talking to a lot of people that are finding themselves, for example, in the home with their spouse or their significant other, not ever having spent this much time together. And a lot is being revealed, both good and not so good,
yes,
right?
yeah.
Now, were you always an author, or has this story just been waiting to be told?
My first book was a compilation book called Ignite Your Life for Women,
Okay.
and I told the story of the fire
Mm-hmm.
and how I chose to leave my marriage from the
Yeah.
fire, and how I forgave my
Oh,
husband.
forgiveness. It's such a
It's
key.
such a big thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You talk about at least you mentioned blessings in your life. Is faith a part of your life as well?
Yes. Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell us what role that's played for you.
Oh, my connection with God and the angels is the primary thing in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It sounds like you listen to those voices. You said you moved from the Cotswolds of England to Arizona recently by listening to that inner voice
Yes,
inside your
and
head.
I listened to the angels' whispers when I moved to England and again when I moved here. So,
Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. So tell us, what are you, in the ideal world, what would your book do for our community, for our children, for the world?
so children will learn that they are magic, that they
Mm,
have magic within, and the magic is love.
mm-hmm.
And they will learn that bringing love into difficult situations will bless the people in the situations. Um, it will help them. The book teaches about victim um, archetype, basically,
Mm-hmm.
and how love can um, move you through a victim circumstance. And what I'm not saying is, because I was in a 33-year marriage where I thought love can conquer everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I just let myself be emotionally abused. And sometimes sometimes the biggest love is choosing to leave.
Yeah. So let's tackle that a little bit more tactically,
Okay.
because I do think there are a lot of people in this situation right now, and they don't know what to do. What would you say to that person that is considering they may need to leave?
Um, I would say that definitely pray.
Mm-hmm.
I would say have friends available that you can go to if you need to leave.
You can confide in, and
Yeah, or stay
don't
with.
be a secret agent when you leave. Like, make sure you have someone in your court that can help you.
Yeah, you need the support. When, especially for me, leaving a 33-year marriage, I didn't know who I was when I left the marriage. I had
Mhm.
no sense of self because I had given myself up throughout the
Mhm.
marriage. And it's taken me 3 years to figure out who I am.
Yeah.
But, um, and I won't say that it was easy because the first 6 months I probably stayed in bed crying more than I did anything else.
Mhm.
Um, it's not an easy thing to do. But in the end, if you are letting yourself give yourself away in a marital situation, you are not honoring yourself and you are not loving yourself.
Mhm.
And as hard as it may seem, we must love ourselves. God loves us. Who are we to
Yeah.
say we're not lovable?
We're this perfect creation that he created. I'll
Yeah.
tell you, I'm curious because I went through a divorce. It's been about 15 years ago, and I still to this day I feel some shame sometimes creep up,
Mm,
in my brain. And I mean,
yeah.
I'm curious if you ever faced that, if probably maybe
Um,
more
he,
early on
yeah,
initially. Yeah.
he actually tried to shame me and say I was
Okay.
going against God by leaving him.
Yeah, I've heard
Um,
that a lot.
yeah,
For
and
me, it was more that I was like the first person in my family to ever be divorced. I
mm,
mean, how could I not make this work, you know? And yet I do believe that as you hinted to, I really do think God can use all things for ultimate good, but
absolutely.
you have to watch for them, and you have to persevere through them, through
And
the hard stuff.
I could not fulfill my mission on earth as one
Right.
of God's warriors if I was still in the marriage.
Why would this book have ever been written had you not been in
It
if you were
wouldn't
in
have
that
come to
marriage?
this point, no.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about now that you've transitioned, you've gone through this difficult time, and I know it continues. I mean, that's what life's about. We're guaranteed change and adversity for sure. Um, Now that you've entered this world, really entrepreneurship, and you've hired yourself in a lot of ways, right?
Yeah.
You engaged with Michael, your publisher,
Uh-huh.
and just kind of tell us through about the process, because I really believe there's a book in all of us.
Oh, I
Um,
think so,
don't you think?
yeah.
Like, tell us just kind of about the process that you went through, and how, and the fun that you've had as a result of it.
So I started writing the book as a lark for my friend's daughter. I wasn't
Oh, nice.
intending on writing a book, and I
Uh-huh.
was just writing a short story for a friend's daughter. But it kind of grew, and at some point I realized that a lot of the situations in the book were kind of allegories of things that happened in my marriage or in my life. And I was putting in my knowledge that I had learned from those things. And so I realized, whoa, this is something different. So I decided, I think by the time I got to chapter 4 or 5, that I was going to go ahead and make this a book. I
Hmm.
ended up writing 60,000 words, which
Wow.
for 8 to 11-year-old is like, that's way too much of a book.
Right,
So,
right.
under Michael's, so Michael Butler of Beyond Publishing, my publisher, suggested I cut it into two. So I quickly rewrote the ending of the first part and made it an ending, and then rewrote the beginning of the second part. And so instantly I had two books available. The
Hmm.
first one is on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. The second one I get illustrations sometime later today. And
Oh, neat.
it'll probably hit the market in early January.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
got it.
And then
And
I have book 3 and 4 done and I'm writing book 5 now.
Wow. Oh my gosh. So you are all in. So I'm intrigued that you have something on your profile that you are a certified quantum shift facilitator.
What
I
that?
want to learn something new every day. Tell me what that
Okay.
is. I've never heard of that before.
So, and this is why I teach about processing emotions in my book. When we deny or stuff an emotion, it creates cellular changes within our bodies.
Mm.
And it gets stuck, and then it kind of gets bigger and bigger and bigger. So the more we drag that problem around with us, the bigger, the heavier the burden is. So I always basically recommend that people go ahead and feel the emotions that they're feeling and let them go, because an emotion shouldn't last for more than 5 minutes. So it's once they get stuck that they become overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
So as a quantum shift facilitator, when I meet with a client, they're going to tell me what's going on, and I help them sit with the emotion while I'm shifting the energy. And so I'm basically helping move the energy behind those emotions away from the aura field of the person.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So are you a coach as well? People can hire you as a quantum facilitator.
Yeah, they can. I haven't put it on my website yet.
Oh, come on, get it out there.
Okay, I will.
You got to
Thank
have
you.
those multiple streams of income, Angela. So,
Yes, they can. Anyone interested can go to my website, and they can just do contact me
yeah.
and mention they're interested, and then I'll send them a calendar link.
Okay. Okay, super. So tell us, I can't believe we're almost out of time. I want to make sure we put in another, generosity plug for this 150,000 ebooks that you want to get out there. Tell us who you would like this to benefit. I did drop the link in our Facebook Live, and I'll make sure
Thank
we
you.
send it out when we send out our newsletter as well. But tell us a little bit more about that and your goals for that.
So this ties back to what I do in the books, the information in the books. It's I realized that what I was doing was writing a book that if I had read as a child, maybe I wouldn't make the same choices I made as an adult.
Yeah.
So I want to give the book to underserved, underprivileged children who may think that they don't have any choices, and for them to know that they are magic and that they can decide to do good in school. They can decide to become whatever they choose to become, even if they don't have the support of their parents. They are the ones, they have that spark of God within them, and they can do that. So that's why I want to target underprivileged.
Oh, I love that. Our children need it so much, and I think our teachers of the world would appreciate these books getting to in the hands of their students as well.
I think so.
Yeah, and keeping our kids childlike. Those the children
that's the magic.
That's the magic. Yeah.
It is.
I have a friend that in fact, I should put you in touch with her. Her name's Deb Erickson. She runs a firm called the ICANN Institute in New Mexico. Mm-hmm. And she has this concept of the toddler mindset.
Which is beautiful.
Which is so beautiful. You think about the toddler when they're learning to walk. I'm like, there's nothing that they wouldn't be like, oh, I probably better stop. I fell, And I mean, we'd all be, a bunch of crawling adults if we never learned to walk.
They are they are so filled with curiosity. They are so filled with wonder and awe. And I
Yeah.
tell the story of a 3-year-old who sees a snail crossing a sidewalk. Us as adults, we say, ew, a snail, and we walk by. We don't
Yeah.
do anything. If we're with a 3-year-old, that 3-year-old crouches down and they're examining this snail.
Yes.
And
Yes.
they're like, what's this shiny thing that's behind it, and how does it move without legs? And they ask
They
so
might
many
pick it up
questions.
and yeah.
Yeah. They might
Well,
try
and
to
you
put it
know,
in their mouth, which is not recommended.
let me ask your opinion. I think you and I could continue talking for a while, but I know we need to wrap this up. But
Okay.
one last opinion about this, because my observation, and I've talked with a lot of experts in the space, is a big factor is this gradual need for approval from others that seeps into our lives. And this, I love the topic of approval addiction that really, I think, stuns the curiosity in our children, and we bring it into our adulthood because we
Yeah.
are so constantly worried about what other people think. What's your opinion about that?
So I think that um, the way the way our nation has set up schools in the last, maybe it's 40 years, I don't know, but they basically kill curiosity in
Mm,
schools.
mm-hmm,
And as parents, we can foster curiosity, but there's also a new wave of different things. So I am involved in a group called Raising Humanity, and they offer, for parents who have their kids at home, for $20 a month you can be in Raising Humanity, and I do a storytelling mentoring for half an hour in
mm-hmm,
that group. The premise behind that group is to allow children to choose what they want to learn, because they will choose what interests them and they
mm,
will then learn better, and schools don't allow that.
right. If you're not
So
in this little box, then you're a
yeah.
you're a troubled student, or you're labeled with ADHD, or but we could go down a tangent here. We probably better not go down the rabbit hole. But
Yeah.
we were talking about that need for approval from others, and that it sounds like, in your opinion, has shaped a lot of how our students are taught and
Yeah, I think so.
impacted learning.
And
Hmm.
conforming to this group, when really we're all individuals created individually by God.
Yeah, yeah,
And we we should celebrate the gifts that we individually have. So I see, probably over the next 20 years, the education system will probably be reformed, because there's such a wellspring of, my nephew created a school, an alternate school in the Portland area. And then my friend started Raising Humanity, and I joined it immediately.
yeah,
So
yeah,
there's new stuff coming up, new ways to teach. And
yeah,
if you have a kid at home and you want to foster their curiosity, be playful, be curious. My son had, and I'm just going to tell this one quick story. So my son was in third or fourth grade. He needed to know how to add and subtract fractions, but he couldn't get it. And he came home, he was quite upset because he couldn't understand this. So I took a bag of M&Ms and I threw it on the table, and I said, we're going to get this. And I made one set of one color and another set of another color. And I'm like, okay, so there's 4 green and 4 yellow, and these are one
hmm,
whole. If you eat this one, we've got 3/4, don't we?
yeah,
And then if I eat these 2, and then if we mush them together, how many sets of 4 do we have? And so by having the kinesthetic, the audio, the visual, and adding taste.
Yeah,
When you can really hit all the senses with them, they're gonna be engaged and they're
I
gonna
love
learn.
that.
And yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So, one last question. Let's just talk about the future. So, you're 20 years in the future, you're sitting on your porch, and your grandchildren come up to you and they're like, Grammy, I just learned about COVID in school. I
Tell me
heard
about
people
that.
went crazy. I heard people went crazy.
Oh my
What
gosh.
what did you do? What did you do, Grammy? Tell us what you did. So what will you be able to tell your grandchildren?
I would say I wrote a lot of fairy tales and I walked the Cotswolds.
I love it.
That's
I
the
love
two
it.
things I did.
Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Angela, for joining us on
Well,
our
thank you so
Dream
much.
Big Nation podcast. To my listeners, I'm so blessed to be part of your day, and I hope that the stories that we're bringing you will touch your lives in ways that will help you create change and take action, and perhaps
Yeah.
even make that brave leap to hire yourself or
Yeah.
continue to hire yourself if you haven't already,
Exactly.
if you've already
Yeah.
made that leap. And if you want to catch up for previous episodes, you can go to Lisa Williams Co. We have all of our episodes there, as well as Dream Big Nation podcast on all the major listening channels. Angela, thank you for joining us. Bless
Thank
you
you,
in this
Lisa.
amazing life journey, and we will see you soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye bye.